This is Beyond with Heather Tesch, where we examine near-death experiences and life itself, hopefully making this life a little better. Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me, and Peter Panagore, thank you again for joining me.
Super glad to be here, Heather, thanks.
Oh, it is such a pleasure. Peter is the author of the book, Heaven is Beautiful. It's a wonderful book, and we've had a wonderful, absolutely stunning and mind-blowing conversation in parts 1 and parts 2, and you can find the links to those in the description. And this is all the result of Peter's spiritual experiences and his near-death experience when he was ice climbing. And during that near-death experience, Peter, you said you saw all the galaxies. You not only saw our universe, but you saw beyond our universe. You saw universes popping up. And that's really hard for me, and I'm sure many others, to fathom. Is there a way to help us understand that better?
Sure.
And why were they popping up? It sounded like they were popping up when you were doing things out of love.
They were popping up from love, infinite love. They were just a gift after gift after gift, whole universes of gift of love, of the emptying of the divine self into universes beyond my understanding, just one after the other, infinite.
And if that's happening to you when you love, and that's happening to everybody else when they love, it just seems like, oh my gosh, there would be bazillions, gazillions of universes.
Much bigger than we could ever think of. So there's this series of books by the last name is Pullman. Can't think of his first name. The Golden Compass and The Subtle Knife, and it's a sci-fi series. It's set in a bunch of different worlds, but this is the conceptualization that there's a garbage bag, a very large construction-sized garbage trash bag, and in this construction-sized trash bags are all these balloons, and all these balloons are stuffed inside this bag, and all these balloons are touching each other, and all these balloons are universes inside the divine being. And because the balloons are self-contained, their own air, even though they touch each other, they are not part of the other one. They're up against each other. That's one conceptualization. Another one from science, it talks about what they call our brains, BRANES, layers of dimensions through which a string, as in string theory, a two-dimensional string strings through, and these brains are these different dimensionalities. These different dimensionalities are connected but not touching. And so they're layers. So these are two different ways of thinking about it. But inside of Christianity, heaven is another universe. It's another place. So even in our Christian mythology, there are multiple layers of realms and dimensionality. We know, I'm going to give you an example. I talked a lot in the part 1 about superpositioning. And superpositioning is this thing that is actual and real. Okay, I'm not making this up. Einstein predicted this thing called quantum entanglement, which is part of the quantum field where superpositioning happens. And in superpositioning, a 1 and a 0 are at the same time a 1 and a 0. Like they're not switching from one to the other in a series of, in a computer, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1 kind of thing. Quantum computing is based in this other dimension. So quantum computers are using this other dimension. The other way of thinking about it is this quantum entanglement, which Einstein called spooky action at a distance. And what this is measurable, repeatable 1,000 times, 10 million times over and over again. It's so usable that that governments are now using it for encryption and communication. You can take molecules and entangle them, touch them together so that they spin in, one spins up and the other spins down. And when you enter a third molecule to this with an up or down spin, and you touch the first molecule so this one has an up spin and molecule B has a down spin, and you take molecule C and you touch molecule A, it switches to a down spin, and simultaneously at any distance, 100,000 light years or next door, doesn't make a difference. The other molecule, molecule B, spins up. And so there's communication going on here that we don't have any idea how it works. Is there like a string underneath them that connects them that we can't see, like that can game with the kids and the string and communication? There's something there. And so there are dimensions that we know of in science that are proven of multidimensionality. These other heavens, if you listen to lots of near-death experiences, you'll hear of a number of types of experiences. Some people pop out of their body and they see themselves and they pop back in. Where are they when they're out of their body in this place where nobody can see them, but they can see everybody else? They're in a different realm. They have a conscious body. They're in a different level of our reality. Then there are the people who go to this sort of semi-corporeal place where there are colors and butterflies and a field or a house, and there's sort of this structure to it. And then there are people that go into this, they go off into somewhere into the cosmos, and they're like surrounded by galaxies or stars, and they meet this other group of elders or their soul family or something. And then there are people like me, and there's probably lots I don't know about, but then there are people like me who go to this place of non-being. And so within even the stories of near-death experience, there are levels of realms, and I can't prove any of this. I'm not here to try to argue theologically or pull out my test tubes and show you where this thing is with, some kind of radiograph or whatever I'm using. I can't prove it. All I have to show, and all any near-death experiencer has to show, is how they live their lives. That's it. And how they respond, and how they relate, and how they grow. And also, it doesn't, if I came back and I'm still dyslexic and I still have ADHD and I still have allergies. And so my brain functions the same way it did before. And my body is still the same body I had before. I mean, it's older now, of course, but, it didn't. And I know that there's NDEs who have physical changes, but mine didn't. I came back to the same person. So if I was insane, if I had an amoeba in my brain or a virus in my brain causing some level kind of insanity, and I came back to my body, pretty much sure that thing would still be there and I'd still be crazy. There are limits to the change that happens. At least in my experience, and they're biological. So what I'm saying is that not every person comes back capable of expressing the light in a way that their soul knows that it exists. The soul knows, but the body might not know so much.
And why do you think there are such different experiences? Like you said, some just pop out of their body. They kind of look down on themselves. Others will see Jesus or somebody else. Some see family. Some go out in the cosmos, as you said. And then others, like you, had this other incredible experience. Why are they all very different? It's almost a little confusing sometimes when people watch these various near-death experiences that I share here on YouTube and elsewhere. But it confuses them as to what's the reality beyond this.
Well, this guy named Mishlove, Dr. Mishlove, won a $500,000 prize last year from the Bigelow Foundation for Consciousness Studies. This billionaire set up this foundation to give $1 million prize a year for research by scientists into near-death experience. And Mishlove won this prize. And in his paper, he talks about that 70% of the people he surveyed, he talked about lots of things, but the thing that jumped out at me was that 70% of the people he surveyed, hundreds of people, talked about two words, light and love. And that those two things, light and love, are most important to us as near-death experiencers. The variety of experiences we have are secondary to the experience of light and love. To us, to me, it's the secondary thing. If I step back and look at my NDE, portion of my NDE, my life review is very Christian, up until the point at which I'm not judged. God isn't the judge in what happened to me. I judged myself. But it has aspects of Christianity in it. And why is that? I ask myself. Why did I go to hell and other people don't? I'm not like, why did I go to hell and he didn't have to? Not like that at all. It's why me, not them. I don't know. What I think is this, is that the divine is compassion. My experience of the divine is compassion and gave me the experience that I needed, whether I came back to life or I stayed in heaven. I was shown what I needed for my evolution, for my advancement. And so maybe it's God is so compassionate that God comes to us, the source of all being comes to us in ways that are best for us, best for our learning. And one way I think about this is the people who go into a hellish experience and don't get out before they come back. They come back from hell. And what you see in their lives is a reformation of action. They become new people. They become born again. And what they experienced changes how they live. And I think this is true for all of us. And my experience is, my two experiences, one is short and one is immense. In both of them, love and light dominate. In neither of them does my explanation to myself of what happened to me even approximate what I feel on the inside. Every story that every NDEer tells is a construction of their mind. And this has been true in mysticism in every tradition around the world, whether you look at the Upanishads or the Gospels. Each mystical experiencer struggles to put into language that which cannot be spoken. And so every NDEer, the brain of the NDEer, takes the experience and uses the tools that it has to interpret and understand what happened to it. Because when you're dead, you don't have a brain. There's no interpretive faculty through which the experience filters. But there is when you come back. And I think that the divine gives us what we need. And everybody's individual.
And when you say that you experienced hell, it was when you felt what you had done to other people. In fact, in your book you wrote, it was hell inside of me, my personal hell. It was the hell I created for myself. And in that experience, you felt all the pain that you had ever created for another person. You also, though, felt the love that you had given to other people and the love that you had received from other people.
I did. Became the lens through which I saw my true self. And the weight of the love that I gave away and that was given to me far outweighed my misdeeds. It was not even in any measurable proportion. Because the same love with which I loved others and the love with which they loved, the love that they gave to me was the same, originated and was from the divine love. God, I love God because God loved me first, is one of the sayings in Christian Protestantism. The love that was given to me became, when I saw the love of, how do I say this? That the treasure of my life became apparent to me in the seeing of the suffering that I caused. And the treasure of my life was all the love given to me. And when I saw that love, my orientation toward love became instantaneous. The power of the overwhelming power of the presence of love was irresistible to me. It was And I know that being swallowed up in a tidal wave or in a flood, these are scary, negative ideas, because you never see in a movie where it's a good thing. But the immersion of the power of the gentle flood of love was so immense and overwhelmingly incomprehensible and giving and welcoming that nothing stood against it. Not even my own weak little links of karmic pain that I caused, that created this chain locking me to myself. Nothing stood in its way. And so as I live my life, I know that I hurt other people. I have hurt other people. I expect that I will hurt other people. I try to mitigate that to the best of my ability, but I'm a human being. And I also know that all the love that I share and is given to me remains the treasure that I carry with me. I can't take my gold bricks through the pearly gates with St. Peter. But the love weighs nothing, and it has no substance, but it is the treasure of all that there is, there and here.
And how often do you think of that when you go about your daily life, just how your love and your pain toward others impacts them and how you want to live your life?
Every day. It never goes away. Every interaction. So I might, let me think of a circumstance, something recent where I reacted rather than responded. My emotions always react, but I don't always respond in action. So I was driving on a highway, 6-lane highway, and super heavy traffic. And I'm from Maine, and so I leave space in front of me. I just do. And because we don't have any traffic here, so we don't have to like ride on bumpers. And so I left some space between me and the car in front of me. And so this car behind me zipped around in front of me and kind of cut me off out of nowhere. And as he zipped away and cutting off the next guy, he flipped me off. And he's like, and I was like, why did he flip me off? And I was like, why did he flip me off? He flipped me off. I'm just heavy traffic. I'm like, so I have this little dialogue going in my head. And then I'm like, whoa, wait. That's my emotional response. That's my humanity rushing into me. And now my day, I was like thinking happy thoughts. I was like, look at those beautiful mountains. Oh, this is such a nice day. And now I'm like, I'm grumbling. I'm like, okay, wait. I can project this anger at him and like a wave form at him. But really the one I'm hurting is myself. And so I just drop for a moment into my breath. I take a few breaths. I remember my peace. And now I'm not intent upon wounding him. When I was before my NDE, even though I'd had these mystical experiences, I might have ridden up on his bumper and hassled him, what I mean? But I don't do that anymore. And it's for his benefit as much as it is mine. So when my emotional responses arise, I take as much time as I can. And some pains are not fleeting. Some pains are deep. Some pains last a long time because it's usually from the people that you love. And that's the hardest part of all. And so then whenever this thing arises in me, and I'm like, that time that person hurt me. And then they hurt me again when I was 7. And then it was, and I can run through a litany, or I can interrupt that litany with my own thoughts and say, take a breath. Remember the peace. Take the pain that I feel and transmute it and breathe out peace toward them. And the reason why I do this is because I saw my own suffering when I died. And I saw the suffering of humanity. I recognize that I'm just like everybody else, and everybody else is just like me. I respond through my traumas. I respond through my own pain. I respond through my own egoic attachments. And they do too. And why should I blame them for that? And if I don't blame them for that, and I'm in this long practice of not blaming myself for that, it's a pattern I live in my life that's driven by this desire to lessen the hell that I need to go through again to get home again. If I do have to go through the purgative fire of love again, I want to make that as small as possible. Not because I'm afraid of it, but because I just want to get home faster. And part of getting home faster is bringing that here now to me as I live. And part of that bringing that here now, bringing heaven here now for me, is as best as I can to treat all with kindness and compassion, but not be a milksop and not be a doormat and not let people stand on me.
It's just an important thing for all of us to realize, because whether we're you on the receiving end or whether we're the guy flipping somebody off, there are so many repercussions to just what seems like a small thing, and we don't always realize how that small thing really impacts and hurts another person.
Yes, and how then that compounds their own trauma that they bring to someone else. And it's like this vicious circle of causing pain. One of the things that the Bible gets straight is that the sins of the father pass on to the son. But it's not like you think it is. What it is trauma. A traumatized parent who is beaten and abused as a child is more likely to beat and abuse their own children. Lots of people don't. Lots of people are able to break free from that cycle of domestic violence that gets passed down family lines. But there are those who can't. And my response to, like, whenever I encounter a super angry person, I know that it has nothing to do with me. And I also know it has everything to do with the people in their lives. And if I provoke them from my own trauma, I just make it harder on the ones that they love, because they're going to go home and take it out on that person. And I don't want part of that system.
And likewise, we have to think when we're doing things, am I really reacting to what they've just done to me? Or is that a reaction because of something else that happened in my life and I was just triggered by that?
I was talking to this young fellow yesterday, and I've known him his whole life, and he had a couple of near-death experiences, heart attacks, and he's a young fellow, major heart surgeries. And he said he went through therapy for quite a while, and he went into therapy to talk about this subject, a thing that was happening at work that he couldn't fix. But the therapist made him talk about what happened to him when he died. And he got to the root of the problem rather than the surface level of the problem. And this surprised this young man. He's like, I don't know why we're talking about this stuff he's telling me. I didn't understand it. And I said to him, what was the result? Of course, he knew the result. The result was that by getting to the root of the problem, he changed his behavior in all circumstances. And by getting to the root of the problem of selfishness, we change our behavior in all circumstances, or we give ourselves the opportunity to do that, to respond with compassion, to respond with kindness, to take the breath instead of reacting to the person, taking the time to thoughtfully understand the circumstances, say, oh, this is through my own trauma, and then responding in a way that can be disarming to the other person. But, or if they're being violent toward you or aggressive, not feeding back the anger that they want you to give them, to feed their own anger, to have no food for them to consume and diffuse the situation. It's a powerful tool to have in your quiver. It's a powerful arrow to have in your quiver when you're walking through your life. It's Cupid's arrow.
Going back to your near-death experience, you were able to choose multiple possibilities in your life. And I found that very interesting because I had heard that for the first time from Crystal Ray, who was somebody I recently interviewed. And she also said that during her near-death experience, she was able to choose what she wanted to come back to. So can you describe that experience a bit more to us?
I'll try. I wasn't given much time to make a choice. I didn't think about what I was choosing. I saw I guess, my attachments to myself that I still carried as I became more corporeal, as I became more, I wasn't carrying them. I was choosing forms in which to live, forms that I could find a way to be, forms that were suitable enough for my desire in ways that I want to spend my life. And the overriding factor for me was that I knew that I was a messenger. I've known that since I was a child. I didn't know what that meant. I had to figure out how to live that. But in the moment of my choice, I wanted the light, but not just the light. I chose more limitation than I could have chosen. Is that right? Should have chosen? I don't know whether woulda, coulda, shoulda. But all I know is that I had an opportunity just to choose the fullness of the light, and instead I chose the light and some humanity. And the most basic choice there, the stark choice, was more flaw versus less flaw, more limitation versus less limitation. And I chose enough limitation that I could be the kind of, oh my God, I can't believe he's a minister. Is he really a minister? Is this guy really a reverend? The things he does, I don't really know. I chose a freedom of conscience. I chose no framework for piety. I chose irreverence and humor and silliness and clowning and seriousness and depth. I chose creativity. I chose writing. I chose bohemianness. I chose counterculture. I chose not stepping to the... So when I dance, the reason why I don't dance in public very often is because I love jazz. Jazz is my natural native music. I'm on the downbeat. I'm always on the downbeat. You can put me in a crowd of 100 people and everybody's clapping on the beat, and I'm clapping with them on the beat, and then I fall into the downbeat every single time. I chose the downbeat in my life. And what I mean by that is that I could have created less trouble in my life had I chosen a more conventional way to live. But I was a kind of a hippie person at the time. I was barefoot and long-haired and had experimented in my younger years, and I liked the freedom of the opportunity of sexuality without the confines of respectability. This is coming out of the 1960s, sex is only in marriage idea, which I'm married and I'm faithful. But I wanted the opportunity to not be a pious little person. And all of that happened in a flash. That's the longest I've ever laid out in thinking it through than I've ever done even for myself. I wanted to be creative. I knew I needed to be a communicator, and I wanted flaw, but I also wanted the light. Because I figured, who's going to believe me if I wouldn't be drinking a beer in the bar with the guys? Who would believe me if I wasn't, if I didn't make mistakes in my life? If I was Mr. Peter Little perfect person? Nobody. I wanted to be able to make mistakes. I wanted to be able to not know it all. I wanted to learn. I wanted to grow. I didn't know what was behind any single door. The door that opened was the one that was the choices that I made. It wasn't like I picked that door. It's like I made the choices and the door opened.
It's also fascinating. We still have more to talk about. In part 4, we really dig into some deep questions, maybe some of the very same things you're wondering about right now. Thanks for joining me on Beyond with Heather Tesch. Please add comments and questions you'd like future guests to answer. Also, if you liked what you heard, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. That'll help keep this podcast going. You can also go to Beyond with Heather Tesch to look for more episodes.